What's up, everyone? Welcome back once again to the SuperScope podcast, your wrap up in this week's biggest gaming stories, leaks, and rumors. We're back with episode 28 on Sunday, April 24th, 2022. I am your host, Retro Game Dude, and of course, joining me as always is my co host, Dice Aurora of Phoenix Aurora Gaming. Now, everyone watching at home live, feel free to join in the discussion live on Twitch or Discord, or if you're watching this on YouTube, tap that like and subscribe button. It helps us out and goes a long way. And if you like what we're doing, let us know in the comments if we missed anything. And for some reason, Daisuke is missing on the stream. There he is. All right.
Hey, I'm here too.
There he is.
It's the me.
You can also find our audio version on Stitcher, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, which usually goes live Mondays. So we're back for another week. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. I have what's a good way to put this? Been putting a lot of time into Vampire Survivors.
True. Facts.
We'll get to that, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. Stay to the stream, of course, every week. We have a great Jackbox podcast. We get together, add some new followers, and have a good adult time full of ridiculousness. So anyone watching at home likes the Jackbox stuff, I implore you to join us on a Saturday night around 9 o'clock. We always have a good time, and I have all the Jackboxes, so we can play whatever you guys want to play. I'm open for it, and sometimes we'll throw some Gartic Phone in there too, if you're into drawing games as well. Schedule-wise, let's get into that. This week, I will be playing Lego Star Wars. I've been meaning to play it for like 2 weeks now, but as always, schedules and lack of ambition. So Tuesday and Wednesday, be here for that. Jackbox, of course, on Saturdays. The SuperScope podcast, which you're watching right now, is on Sunday night. And we're going to do a Discord movie night at some point. I'm thinking maybe a Friday, maybe this Friday, because someone over here hasn't seen the Goonies yet.
Goonies again. Yeah,
So,
I haven't seen the Goonies.
yeah, I think that's like mandatory watching. So if you're in the Discord, feel free to join along here. Let's see if I can put that link up. Boom, there it is. Join all in. So what are you playing this week? I think we're both going to talk about this one.
So okay, I'll be technical here because I'm going over the last 2 weeks because we didn't do last Sunday.
That's fair.
Because this past week I didn't play Tunic at all, but I finished it the week prior.
Yes.
Not 100% because it's hard to tell what 100% is in that game because it doesn't do it doesn't tell you how many of each item you can get for like the stat boosting items or whatnot. So for all I know, I could be missing half a dozen of them, and I won't know unless I go looking for them. But as far as I can tell, I got both endings that you can get, which requires you to pretty much do all the side content you can come across.
Interesting.
A lot of puzzles to solve, which were really interesting, really cool. I liked a lot of how they did the design for them. Yeah, if you haven't done it already, definitely go finish that game.
Yeah, I need to go back and play it. I
into.
really enjoyed what I played of it so far.
Even if you
definitely-
don't if you get stuck on the difficulty of because I think things that happen with the Jace, like not the last fight, but the second to last fight was tough too. So we were just like turn on the I can't die and just clear the fight, because after you clear the game, there's a lot of more puzzles to look for, which is really cool.
Interesting.
Like, you know that manual they give you pages for?
Mm-hmm.
Once you get to the end of the game, basically, it starts to be like, hey, there's more secrets. And then going and solving those secrets gets you more panels of the manual, which then also have more secrets. And you end up doing a whole lot of the side questing that way. And there's a whole second ending tied to completing basically all the side quests. Which is really cool. Overall, really solid. I'd give it a 9. I think there's a couple things that are iffy about it, but we talked before about how I like the trick of visually obscuring an entrance to a cave or a back shortcut, but they do it every 5 seconds in that game. Yeah. So it's dude, to this day, I will still watch a YouTube video of a person playing Tunic, and they're like, yeah, blah blah blah, and then they walk behind a tree, and I'm like, you can do that, and then I go and I do it, and it's there, and I'm like,
wow,
how are you supposed to find all these little things? Yeah, and that's why I say, for all I know, I'm missing 6 upgrade items, because who knows where they are? They could be in the weirdest places. But I will say that other than that, and a little bit of UI stuff, like telling me you have 5 out of 6 magic increases, or you have 3 out of 4, that kind of little quality of life stuff. Other than that, fantastic.
Awesome.
Definitely recommend it.
Yeah, I got to sit down and throw some more time at it. Hopefully that'll be happening soon, but it's really contingent on my work schedule.
Sure.
And once I get my schedule to like a 10 to 6, which is kind of where that's like my happy place.
Yep.
I would actually have some more spare time. At this point I just don't. So it's
Yeah.
like Tuesdays and Wednesdays I come home at 8 o'clock. I go live at 9, so I have like an hour to eat dinner and then go live.
Right.
And then Saturdays it's a 10-hour shift, and then I have like a 2-hour gap where I can kind of like relax, decompress before I do Jackbox, which is typically a longer stream. So that's a long day. And I usually sleep a lot on Sundays and then get up and write this podcast, and it's like my spare time is just very minimal. So that's why my backlog continues to increase, but we're working on it. Hopefully we'll get through it at some point, but as soon as that schedule opens up a little bit better, I'll definitely be doing a lot more, especially with this channel.
Definitely. And then I guess my other two things for last week mostly, but also a little bit of the week prior, would have been Final Fantasy 14, the new patch, 6.1, newfound adventures, lots of stuff to do. Mostly the 24-man raid I've been doing. Really good raid, fun fights, really cool. You've been there, obviously.
Yeah, of course.
Watching dudes punch meteors is like a new thing, which is really interesting to watch people get melted by it until we figured it out.
I definitely like those new mechanics. Took me a second to pick up on that. Yeah, the punching through things and then stand here, stand there. But it's
Firewall lady with her she blows the wind through the fire and you have to be on the wind side. Yeah, right. Absolutely.
Wild stuff.
And then Vampire Survivors. Played a bunch of it.
Oh yeah.
It's for those of you watching or listening, it's $3 on Steam. It's a negligible price that you won't even miss.
Right.
And you can get an ungodly amount of playtime out of that game.
100%. There's so much.
I've been playing it
and so much to
all
look
the time.
forward to. There's so many more game modes to unlock. It's just it's incredible.
I think I've got 6, 7 stages open now, plus a dozen characters, all kinds of weapons and items, power-ups, 3 different modes at least, and then I know that there's ones I still don't have because they're in the unlock list. So you can play this game for probably a good month every night nonstop and still be finding new things to do with it.
100%.
It's a good gameplay loop. It's fun to play. Absolutely.
I've stayed way too late this week playing that game, and I definitely paid for it this week. But holy shit, it's so addicting.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I implore anyone who has Steam. It's $3. Go buy it before it gets out of beta, and that goes up to like a $30 game. I can guarantee you they could sell that game on the Switch physical for like $40, and I can guarantee they would get away with it. Especially the collectors out there with it.
Well, I say it feels like it definitely sits in like the $30 price range easily because I've played other games for like $30 that are not as long or not as engaging.
Sure,
I should say
engaging. The word, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I've had a lot of fun with it. I had a lot of fun with Final Fantasy 14. I still need to work on my last 2 crafters, but I did get that pickaxe finally. The
Oh yeah.
I don't know what tier you would call that. It's like the golden pickaxe. I don't know.
Yeah, I would say the one that like shines. It has the lighting effect on it.
Yeah.
Because no other pickaxe has that lighting effect. Which, by the way, if you put that in your portrait, it will do that in your portrait frame.
Oh.
So nice. If your portrait is your dude with the pickaxe out or something, the pickaxe will do that. The portrait's not a static picture. It's like a running snapshot of your character. So things that like shine and sparkle do it in the thing.
Very cool. Well, I'm definitely looking to doing that. That new adventure plate mechanic is definitely
There's some adventure plates out there for sure.
Yeah, someone posted a picture of Square or Final Fantasy 14 on Twitter saying, "Post your adventure plates," and everyone was like, "Oh my god, what are you doing?"
Did you see the Yoshi coming back with the pizza, and the pizza says 6.1 adventure plates, and the place is like on fire with like different people's pictures?
Oh yeah, I love it. Oh my god!
I sent you and Dark the Fisher guy, right? Like the guy holding the fishing rod and like making the face. Oh man!
Wow, I can't believe.
I cannot believe it. They get away with some stuff, that's for sure.
100%. I don't know how do you police it. You have to sit there and go through like every profile, and it's like there's no.
The only way I think to do it would be mechanically, because like you could make it so the camera can't get so close or whatever. Because that's a lot of the ones that take advantage of it are like getting the player character close
Way
to the
close.
camera.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like cut, like so their face is cut off or some parts of the body are cut off.
Yeah, the implied
Yeah.
stuff.
So I think like if you could make it so the camera couldn't get that close, so the whole character was like always in frame, you would eliminate some of that anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And then I guess if they were really worried about it, they could disable a couple of poses that seem like what's a good word for it? Like promiscuous poses or like you know what I mean, like the kind of poses where like that like what's a good one? I can't even think of a good one. But you get what I'm saying.
Like
If they really wanted to,
implied
they could
poses.
disable a thing or two. Yeah, yeah, like the implied stuff. They could disable one or two if they really felt it was a problem or something.
Sure. Yeah, that's yeah, I don't know what to say at this point, but yeah, it's definitely sketch. I don't think I'm playing anything else this week. I swear I was playing something last week and I just don't remember it.
So we Destiny at all?
No. Not really.
Kind of petered off for now, yeah.
I guess I almost have to, because if I do play nothing but Destiny, then I will only play anything but Destiny, or I'll play Destiny and only that. So it's like I have to. I don't know. It's just the game just doesn't have like the appeal it used to me anymore.
That's fair.
And it's kind of been like a thing that's been tapering off for a while. Like I'll go back and play the hard content and all the big stuff when it comes out and stuff, but like the lasting power it has with me anymore is just not there.
Yeah.
And it's just like one of those things. It's like I feel like I've done everything I can in the game, besides new content. But it's like I've done all the hard raids. Like there's nothing else really for me to do.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people saying too that the new crafting system was like a good idea on paper, but it's extremely tedious in practice and it's not engaging in a good way. And it's like, I know I tried it for a little bit and I was messing around with the crafting system too, but like I started putting on a gun and it was like, yeah, I got a gun to like level 2 and then level 3, and then it was like, so if you take this gun to level 10, you can then go back and do, and I'm like, wait, I'm not using this like weirdly janked red gun all the way to level 10 of it, which it could take me like a month.
Right.
So like a full month or something. I think even Tassie was saying, even in Witch Queen in the season, doing all the content you can and doing everything possible, you will still spend a month making one crafted gun exactly the way you want it.
No thanks.
Which is like, at that point, you might as well just be grinding strikes for strike-specific guns that are god rolls, because at least that way you're playing the game like with enjoyable content or whatever.
Right, with weapons that you want to use.
You know, and it's funny because people's biggest complaint about things like champions and the seasonal artifact was being locked into what types of guns you have to use to do the content. And their response was to make a crafting system where you're locked to one specific gun for content. And it's like, oh, okay.
Right, this is worse.
And I feel so bad because like the last couple expansions, Destiny keeps doing like we hear you that you want better selection of loot, so we're going to fix it. And then they were like humble engrams, but then humble engrams were like a pain to get working, and then you still had like a 50-50 of it being not what you wanted.
Right.
And then even then there were still random rolls and some stuff too, so it was like, okay, cool, great. And then people were like, okay, whatever, that was a flop. And then like with this one, they were like, we know you didn't like that system because it wasn't perfect, so now we've got a perfect system, you can handcraft your stuff. And you're like, awesome, that's what I wanted. And they're like, and it takes you a month, like a full month. And you're like, okay.
Yeah, it doesn't feel good at all.
It feels like they just keep missing the mark no matter how they try and do it.
Well, then you have to like spend time doing certain game modes to even unlock the patterns for the weapons. And that's on a schedule, so like it could be a certain gun that you want, and it's
it's like certain ones are
it's on a Tuesday,
once a month.
and you don't, if you can't get to your PlayStation or whatever system on a Tuesday, then you gotta wait another 3 fucking days.
Oh, is it really by day?
Yes, yeah.
That's the stupidest thing. What if you always work doubles on Monday? Like you just can't get a Monday gun?
Exactly.
Oh my god, that's ridiculous.
Well, it rotates to a degree where it always shuffles, but
okay. I was like, that's such a weird like 2 steps, like 1 step forward, 2 steps back system. Like
right. But yeah, that new activity, not the PSYOPs, the other one, Wayfair,
Mountain or something,
whatever the hell it's called.
Yeah.
Wayfair. I don't fucking know. I don't remember.
You buy cabinets.
Yeah. Nice. But yeah, that one rotates every other day. Or no, it's only like a couple day cycle. And then the activity flip flops every other day too. So it's just very strange.
Yeah.
And then
I was hearing like a lot of people were just, and it's not like it seems like it's hard to get right because like, you know, I don't play very often lately because I've been playing other things. But like before the last few weeks, I was playing Outriders again, and I got to the end of the game, And Outriders is very smart about it. When you beat the game, well, even just when you beat any kind of side quest or mission, they give you like 3 options and you pick what you want. Which that improves on Destiny's loot system in general in terms of like, well, hey, dude, what do you need this week? And you're like, the only thing that's not, 1350 or whatever is like my helmet. And you're like, okay, so what do? I run stuff until the helmet drops. I go check raid rewards and I see if I got a raid helmet. I check clan rewards for a helmet, and if I don't get a helmet, I can get 18 pairs of boots before I see my helmet, and it just sucks for me, I guess.
Yeah.
But with Outriders, it's like whatever piece you need, it's like, well, they drop 3 different pieces for different categories, so the odds are you only have to run 3 or 4 things before you'll find what you're missing. And then the same thing with like the end game gear. Like when you do the missions at the end of that game, they dump like, I want to say every time I do one of the end game missions right now, they dump like 10 or 11, maybe a dozen full different options on you. And I don't think there's any single of like content in Destiny where you can get 12 12 rewards for completion that are all like current too. They don't do like the pinnacles and stuff. They just like you get your stuff. Like you run content, you get stuff.
Yeah, I will say like the only thing the tier like trading in weapons in that game and then like following that path to like upgrade your weapons is just a little confusing on my end.
Yeah,
especially when it's like my first time really doing it while it's live. So
sure.
By the time like by the time I was at the end game of Shadowbringers, like there was already other better stuff achievable, so I could skip all that, all that shit. So I think it was like all the Crypt Lurker gear. Yeah. So it's just like not understanding the path, but it is just a little crazy. A more straightforward system would be nice, but.
Well, it's like, it definitely could be like straightforward in that regard. But what I do like about 14 system is like you pick your rewards again, so it's like within reason you can like.
Yeah, you can still pick a path and like, okay, I need this gear, so I can, get that. And if it doesn't drop, you run it again, and you probably get it. So
yeah, you're never sitting there like, oh, my helmet's my worst piece by far, and then we're just like, you're like, how do I get my helmet? And me and Dark look at you and we're like, I don't know, you just run stuff, I guess, and hope a helmet drops. It's like, no, we tell you like, you go craft the helmet and give it to the Rain Lady, or you buy it with tomes directly, or you run the raid, and after like a few runs, it'll drop. And especially on your tank, you'll be the only person rolling on the loot, so you just get your pick.
Exactly.
So, but yeah, I mean, with things like 14 and things like Outriders and these other games doing loot very accessibly and just being like, yeah, pick what you need. Like, I don't understand how we're still. And then Destiny even has like the spoil system, but then the spoil system is still like you had to run the raid so many times to get the currency, and then certain things aren't part of it anyway. And it's like, okay.
I mean, there's how many people are there still that don't have Eyes of Tomorrow that are like pretty regular raid runners?
Oh yeah, dude. There's still people who don't have 1,000 voices, and that's 4 years old or something now.
Yep.
And it's like, okay. And they're like, well, and we've seen systems that fix this. Like, we've seen systems with like bad luck protection, where it's like every time you don't get it on a run, it increases by like 3%, and eventually you'll end up at 100%. Where after 35 or so runs, you're just locked in to get it.
Right.
Like, and I mean, obviously, I don't know. It's not something like carry over from Final Fantasy that I like, because like in Final Fantasy, you run 10 of a extreme, you get whatever the gear is, because they hand you like a tome every time you do it, like a totem, and when you get all 10, you can just be like, well, I want that piece anyway. And they started doing giving you the weapon drop and like a weapon coffer. So even if you don't win the weapon drop because it wasn't your drop, you can still roll in the coffer and have a chance. So like 2 people are getting it every time, and it's it's just weird that like there's so many systems and so many games that protect against this kind of thing.
Yeah, and I think it's for them to not at this point address it, it's just because it's their way of keeping players engaged,
keeping retention of players. Yeah,
right.
I agree.
If that's the way you have to do it, then that's kind of shitty.
And well, because look at like, again, I hate to keep picking at the thing that does it so well, but Final Fantasy does so many things so well. Like Final Fantasy has the roulette system to keep players engaging in adult content. So if you need people to do, not Leviathan raid because it's gone. Say you want people to still engage with Last Wish. In Destiny, it's like, well, it has 1,000 voices and it's impossible to get it. And if you get it, then you get it. And if you don't get it, then you keep running it. That's what keeps people playing that raid, and that's it. But like in Final Fantasy, you have that roulette system where they give you rewards for doing these things. They give you good rewards for doing those things. So like if I queue up for dungeons and someone needs to clear the vault from Heavensward, it'll put me with that person, and then it'll give me a bunch of extra rewards for going back and doing old content with them. Like, it would not be hard, in my opinion, to implement like a raid roulette system where like you could queue up for just raid roulette, and it could give you Last Wish, it could give you Garden, it could give you the current one, it could give you the Shadowkeep one, whatever. I mean, I guess Garden is Shadowkeep one. You get what I'm saying. You can have all the current raids in like just a roulette. You sign in, it puts other people with you like LFG style, and then you try to run that content with them, and if you clear that content while you rouletted, queued, you get whatever extra reward. Maybe it's Ascendant Shards, maybe it's a bunch of weapon crafting currency, since that seems hard to get for a lot of people. Like,
Sure.
that actually kills two birds with one stone, because a lot of people say that getting the crafting currency is hard, or takes time. So, give people, like, a ton of crafting currency if they go the roulette route, and then people who queue into, like, individual raids like Last Wish, it'll be like finding people, and it'll pull from that roulette pool and fill that, and then there you go. It's not perfect, but I think it's way better than
100% way better.
go on this third-party app and beg people to run with you and hope that they're nice to you and yada yada.
Yep, 100%.
Convince people to come play the old content because you need it done, I guess. Like
for real. Well, let's move on here. Let's tell you a quick word from our sponsor, Handheld Legend. Just want to thank them. But if you are an enthusiast like I am in modding your old systems, head over to handheldlegend.com/retrogamedude. Use that link and save $10 off your first purchase. They have stuff over there like custom shells. They have screens, backlit screen kits, the whole shebang, and how-tos and all that stuff. So if you want to save $10 off your first purchase, give me a little taste of that. It's handheldlegend.com/retrogamedude, or use the code retrogamedude at checkout. So let's move on here. So new segment here. I figured we cut on a lot of long stories, but we miss a lot as well. So I figured we could at least kind of breach on some of our more important things, but just not something that really, I would say, initiates a conversation, but still good information to have out there. So basically, this is just kind of our quick headline segment. We're just going to burn through these real quick. So Gearbox has announced a new Tales from the Borderlands that is due this year. Well, Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga set record for the biggest global launch in franchise history. Very impressive. The Outriders new expansion World Slayer releases June 30th, and Paradox Interactive announced the Shadowrun trilogy heading to all consoles, including the Switch, on June 21st. Baldur's Gate fans, Baldur's Gate 3 will officially leave early access and be released in 2023. Ubisoft rumored to be developing an Overwatch-like shooter called Project Q, which it sounded like it was going to be littered with NFTs, and they had to walk that one back. Koei Tecmo is following the path of Capcom and Bandai Namco and raising employees' base salaries. Good on them. And it was announced that Halo Infinite's long-awaited campaign co-op mode would finally launch in August. So it sounds like the Halo Infinite just needed a whole other year of development, and they were not given that. So,
dude, there was articles. I'm pretty sure Schreier has an article where they talked to some of the devs or people from the team, and they said exactly that. They were like, this game needed an entire. I think they said the game needed 2 years from the original launch window, and it got like one.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's what we saw with Cyberpunk, the exact same thing, and it all
comes down to financials. The devs thought it was a joke.
Right.
Dude, the devs thought it was April Fool's joke when they announced it for April that year. They were like, no, this is an April Fool's joke. And then they were like, okay, we'll delay it. And they were like, oh my God, they were serious. And then they delayed it to like that fall, like holiday season, basically. Yeah. And they still were like, no, it needs like 2 more years. Like, what do you mean? That's not how that went.
No, it certainly isn't.
Oh boy, like, let me tell you, like, some of the stuff I saw in that game, like it's the kind of stuff that you would, like, if you gave me the game and said it needs to come out next week and asked me to Band-Aid stuff, that's what it would be. It would be literal Band-Aids. Make it passable.
Well, that's what we talked about the last time we talked about Cyberpunk, was like there was just a lot of Band-Aids on the systems just to get something functional.
Absolutely.
Like even like the cars to move. Like that was the people unresing when you spin the camera again.
Oh, dude, yeah. If you shoot and the people are fleeing from you and then they leave your camera view, they disappear completely, which means you could like crouch in the middle of a street full of people and then you could like bang in the 360 and everyone's gone. You could despawn the whole block.
Right.
Because the game did like their off camera despawn them and it wouldn't put them back or anything. So yeah, you could unspawn an entire block in a half a second. You could unspawn cars by just parking your car on the road and then like looking at the cars. and then turning away and looking back, and you would watch 2 cars disappear, and like new cars would come to replace them. Like, yeah, police would just spawn in buildings because they didn't have any other spawning system. They'd spawn behind you in a room with no other exits. They wouldn't come in the doors. They would just spawn in the corner. Like, it's very much like extremely like Band-Aid fixes. And I feel like when I say Band-Aid, it doesn't sound that big, but like these were huge systems that were entirely wrapped up with like duct tape. Like, it's insane.
Yes, I think duct tape is probably a generous comparison.
Sure.
It's like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was all bad. But yeah, it's sad to see a game that I used to really enjoy. Again, haven't really touched it in a long time. Just kind of fall apart like that. But
yeah, I think what kills me. Oh, go ahead.
It was just pretty obvious that like 343 they wanted to do a live service game, and I don't think the live service implementation was even an original idea. And then they were like, okay, well, we're behind the 8 ball. We need something to recoup money on this, and then they just integrated it. And it was clear that they had no game plan after it dropped, and they were just like, okay, it's a live service game, and everyone's just like, okay, but now what? Like, what do you mean now what? It's a live service game. It's like, yeah, but you have to keep releasing content, and I think they would have like the same 3 events like cycle over and over, or one event cycle over and over a couple times. It was just all bad. It was just nothing about that was just good at all, and it was just very apparent that they just had zero game plan after the launch.
Not even that. Even at launch, there was some serious like issues, like objectively from a game design perspective. You had things like they had a season pass kind of thing, like a battle pass that you could like fill out and like gain rewards. Like most games had done that in that year, last year. You had stuff like Pokemon Unite doing it with their battle pass structure. You had things like Destiny. You had things like Magic Arena. Most games that have like an ongoing service at this point have like you earn experience on a bar and the bar fills and you get rewards for it. Halos was like on paper before it came out, it sounded like it was going to be the best of the best because it was like you can go back and pick old tracks that you haven't beaten yet and apply your experience to those tracks as you play. So if you're missing rewards from previous seasons, you can do that. And that was like it was like as long as everything works normally, that is going to put it a cut above the rest. Because the only other one that does that right now that we know of is Final Fantasy 14 said their Crystal Conflict will be doing something similar. But that hasn't even gotten past 1 season yet. So of course, whatever.
Sure.
But then it came out and they were like, yeah, so you do your daily missions, get experience. And then you were like, what do I do after I've done my play 2 games and get 10 kills for the day? They're like, you come back tomorrow.
Yeah.
And you're like, wait, I don't get anything for playing? I don't get anything for winning? Anything? Nothing. There's not a big list of achievements that all have some experience tied to it. I mean, shit, dude, Pokemon Unite has like 30 things usually running at a time that you can get like checked off a list. Plus you get it for every game you win or play or whatever.
Yeah.
And they were like, nope. And then people were like, you realize this is awful, right? And they were like, oh yeah. And they like changed it after the fact. And then all of a sudden we had like a normal system again.
Right. It seems like they were going off of like Halo Reach's like system where it kind of gave you like a couple things to like do other than just play the game. And
right.
Things to focus on. But that doesn't translate well into like XP gathering for a season pass.
Yeah, exactly.
That stuff runs out and then you have nothing else to do. It's like, how do you expect player retention to happen if you're like, okay, well here's these three things to do, and then just kind of like hang out if you want. Like, no, of course I'm not going to waste my time if it's not going to give me experience for a season pass. And that's unfortunate that a season pass economy exists in the first place, to be honest. But it's just like if you're going to lead into it, you got to do it right, and you have to make it so that people want to stay and play your game, or you're going to look at stuff like a 3,000 player count max on Steam, which is what they're looking at right now, if not less at this point.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think like as a concept, I like that kind of concept when it's done right. Like in a game like if you had a game like Magic Arena, I like how their track works because there's a free track. Destiny's is the same way. There's a free track, and just playing the game earns you stuff on the free track. So you're just occasionally getting rewards for playing. Even actually, Pokemon Unite was my favorite, I think, because there was multiple tracks running at the same time, and they would all just randomly, drip feed you rewards. So it felt like you were getting rewards every other game, no matter what track you were hitting them from. I don't mind when there's a track like that if it's either free or if it's not like I don't know. I don't like the idea of a paid track giving you like actual bonuses that are like power rewards. Like if Magic the Gathering is like, even Magic's is kind of iffy because their track, if on their pay track, you get like a bunch of mythic wild cards and other things that let you build better decks inherently. And that can be like obviously problematic because then I could just sit down with $30 and be like, boom, buy a bunch of packs or buy the track, and then all of a sudden I'm outperforming other people who don't have access to the cards. But Magic Arena's thing is a whole other beast because that game is very much like, if you want to be good at that game, you have to sit down on launch day and put $100, $200 into like packs to build competitive decks, which that's similar to paper Magic, but with paper Magic, you actually own stuff. I just don't like the idea of putting $200 into a digital product and then hand waving it away in 2 years when it expires paper Magic, or whatever.
You still can buy the specific cards you want.
Well, that too, yeah. That's the other thing. On Arena, you cannot pick like individual cards that you want and build a certain deck. I couldn't sit down on New Capenna Day and be like, I want to build blue, white, green, and then just start getting those cards. It's like, no. The best thing I can do is buy a bajillion packs and hope I get it.
Yeah. Now, I mean, those mythic rare cards do help, like the wild cards.
Sure. Yeah.
It is I understand why it's like that, but it's certainly a better way than not having it.
It's a lot more money oriented than it is player oriented, and I think I know there's a balance there, obviously, but it feels like it's out of balance in my opinion. Even games like Hearthstone with their dust system allow you to actually pick targets when you spend dust to get cards. Like, you know, it's not perfect, but if I open a really good card out of a Hearthstone pack, I can scrap it and put it towards a card for my ice deck or something or whatever. So because like literally when I first started playing Hearthstone, they were giving me all the rewards, giving you packs, giving you free cards, and I looked through the cards and was like, this is the deck I want to build, and I just scrapped the rest of my collection into dust and was like, buy these 12 cards, and that was nice because I was able to build a deck I wanted, only one, and then I had no other cards, but that's still way better than like, here's your random stuff, build whatever you can, like. You know, I open 10 packs or something and I get 3 of the same rare, like a green rare that I don't want to play. But I'm like, well, if I want to compete, this is like the best card I have. So I guess I'd build around this. And now I'm sitting here playing Magic Arena with a jank, like green-black deck I don't like, trying to win matches with a bad deck in the hopes that I'll win currency to then go buy cards so I can eventually play the deck I want to play. It's like, you know, it'd be like Destiny being like, yeah, welcome to Destiny. And they hand you a sidearm. And you're like, if you want to get to like scouts and rocket launchers, you got to work your way up. And you're like, okay, I'm just not gonna play. Like, I don't want to play with like weapons that are bad, so I can eventually get good weapons. Like, yeah, it's rough, but
you're not wrong. All right, let's get into some stories here this week. Big story, obviously. Let me bring it up. Sonic Origins was announced. You know me, you know I love me some Sonic the Hedgehog. I think it was the first game I streamed on this channel way before I did any branding for it. It's just kind of more of an experiment, like a couple of years ago before I did like anything or thought this was even going to be a thing. So excited to see they are bringing back Sonic 1, 2, 3, and Knuckles and Sega Sonic CD all in a compilation. So I guess they did release a silly chart. We got to see that on Twitter, so we'll get into that in a second. But yeah, I'm pretty excited about this, just because, you know, I'm a humongous Sonic fan. So I'm glad to see that this is coming here. What are your thoughts?
Definitely. I was actually going to say there was a couple things about this. One was, it's funny you mentioned what you did, because when I first started my YouTube and Twitch channel back in like 2018, the first 2 series that we ran on YouTube as episodes was me and Leisha playing Pumba 2, which was like, I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but it's a PlayStation 1 like whole classic game.
Yeah.
It's really well done, and it's also awful. And it's the weirdest like it's the weird, like, you ever have like, I don't know how to explain it. It's like someone gave you like food and you eat the food and you're like, oh, something in here is actually rotten and moldy. But then everything else is like amazing. So it's like, oh, do I want to eat this again? And you like kind of want to bite it again, but you're like it's really weird. But
like they had something going for it.
Yeah, from a game design perspective, there's a lot that it does well. It's like from a writing and story perspective, it's off the rails, like nonsensical, and you can't even take it seriously. Dude, that's the game I told you about where they had the guy misspoke his line, and then he corrected himself and then read the line again, and they left it all in the game. He was just like, he
Yes.
misread his line and was like, okay, there you go, there you go. And then he read his line again, and they just left it in the game.
Yeah, that's
um,
incredible.
so I played that, and I played, what was the Kirby for Super Nintendo? Kirby Superstar or something?
Yeah.
I played that with Lisha. And then my third thing on that channel that we did was I was doing a solo run of Sonic Mania.
Mm-hmm.
With commentary, and it was like the coolest thing because Sonic Mania was a big like trip for me because
Fuck
there
yeah,
was a lot
dude.
of retro stages and there was a lot of like every other stage was like an old stage, and then the
Mm-hmm.
second part of it was like a modern take on it. And the Sonic Mania crew did a
Yes.
great job, and if I'm not mistaken, that's who's doing Origins, which
Yes.
is exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah,
and
Christian Whitehead's involved, and I think they've done other remakes of this collection in the past, and
mhm.
have done like some updates on those levels, and that's all going to be part of this as well.
That's fantastic. And I
Mm-hmm.
know, like, I caught a YouTube video because the guys who do the music for the Sonic games lately, since Mania Origins, Mania Plus, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
is Super Potions. And if you've never heard of them, they're a cool channel on YouTube. They do a lot of video game music. Even
Mm-hmm.
outside of this, they just do a bunch of like video game mixes and stuff. They're really cool.
Yeah.
Everything about this is great. It's like fans making the music, fans doing the remakes, you know, people who love this franchise working on this franchise. It's all awesome. And then it feels like everybody comes together to do this like perfect thing. You know, they hold up like the golden ring and it's like, yeah, it's amazing. And then they hand it to like an executive, and the executive is like, how do I break this up into monetary purchase?
Yes.
Like,
So yeah,
God damn it.
Sega once again, like just absolutely missing the mark on marketing, which
Yeah, it
is
could have been
just what
perfect, dude.
their hallmark is, for the last
Mm-hmm.
20 years. They posted this chart on Twitter, and everyone was vehemently confused, because it just
Yeah, rightfully so.
it creates more questions than it answers, to a question that shouldn't exist in the first place. So you see
Yeah.
here, you'll probably have to walk me through this one because this is mind-boggling here.
Yeah, yeah,
So
sure.
you have the main game here. You can pre-order it, and it's just the main game. And then they have 4 other tiers, but they're not really tiers. They have
Mm-hmm.
the if you go all the way to the right, they have the digital deluxe edition. Let's bring her up on the big screen here. So we have like the digital deluxe edition, but that's missing stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not true. So if you do pre-order it, you get basically everything in the middle tiers all bundled together with it.
Yeah. So what you've got, so on the left here, you've got just main game.
Yeah,
On the far right, the digital deluxe edition has everything except the bonus coins, the mirror mode, and the letterbox.
right,
Those three exact same things are the free DLC, the Start Dash Pack, included with pre-order of standard or digital deluxe.
right.
So if you pre-order digital deluxe, you do get everything,
Mm-hmm.
but you have to pre-order it, not just buy it. If you pre-order the standard game, you get the game, the coins, the mirror mode, and the letterbox, and then you miss out on like the rest of the stuff. And then at that point, if you missed out on the rest of the stuff, you'd have to get the premium fun pack to get the hard missions, the background, the animation in the menu, the control over the islands, and the animation during music islands. And then the music pack is a separate pack as well. That's the weird one for me, especially, is the music pack is just a random one-off music pack by itself. But okay.
Yeah, that's kind of and I almost wonder because there's always been this weird rumor of contention with the music rights in Sonic and Knuckles and Sonic the Hedgehog 3. And I almost
Yeah,
wonder if
absolutely.
that tier is separated just so it's like here this is like a dedicated
Payoff, whatever
payoff
they have to pay off for it.
just for
Yeah.
the rights. And
Yep.
I'm kind of thinking that's what that is.
I wouldn't be surprised by that. It does it because this chart could have easily have just been 4, and the premium fun pack could have had the music, and it still would have gone over roughly the same way. But this makes it even look weirder when there's like one tier that's just base game, and then one tier that's just a music pack,
Right.
and
Like,
then the rest
can
is
I
like a bunch of
just
stuff.
buy the music pack? Is that what you're telling me? Like, it doesn't make
Yeah,
any fucking
yeah.
sense.
Well,
Yeah, it was a
yeah.
weird way to go about it.
I think. Well, I have a few gripes with this. One, the like pre-order to get the start dash pack. I hate when they do that when it's like, as much as I disagree with it, I understand if like a retailer gets a bonus because it convinces you to go to that retailer.
It's all
But like,
digital.
it's all digital, so it's like this is probably where everyone's getting it anyway. No one's. I mean, I
Right.
guess if they do a physical print run of this game, sure, but like, I feel like most people in general are already getting it from the store. You would think that package just would be included. And my other thing is like the premium fun pack. I would understand, and this may be the case, so I can't speak to it. But if the premium fun pack is content that was like Well, no, because it can't even be the case because it's coming out. The fact that you can get it means that it's going to be made.
Right.
I don't know. I don't have a problem with it if it's like a Kickstarter style thing where it's like, hey, if enough people buy it, we'll make the premium fun pack,
Right.
or something
Right.
like that, or like it's not done at all and they're going to work on it,
And I
and
think
therefore
they
it's
were
up for
trying to
pre-order.
mimic that.
Yeah, I think it's what it feels like it's trying to be,
Right.
but because it says coming soon instead of like available at any time or anything.
Exactly.
But the fact that it's here now before the game releases,
Oops.
this wasn't like a response to the game doing well. We're going to add content because you're demanding it. This is we planned all this content out, including this stuff, and then this chunk is going to be something that's coming later and for more money. And it's like, well,
Yeah.
if your original scope of the game included everything in that fun pack, just make the fun pack and make it part of the game.
And that's
And if the game doesn't come out until like December, that's fine.
right. And that's my argument is like, why not just make the Ultra Deluxe Edition, just smush all this into one package and sell it just one tier? Like,
Yeah.
why does it
make
have
it
to
one
be
game
like
for
this?
one tier.
Like,
Yep. No, absolutely. And that's the best part is the game. The digital deluxe edition, if I'm not mistaken, is like $45.
uh-huh.
And the base game is like 40, right?
Yeah, it's a $5 difference. So why are
So
we
it's like,
making
dude, just make the thing $45, and that's the
right?
default price for the game, and it comes with everything
Yes.
automatically, and then the game. It's you get the maximum amount of money you could ever make. Because
Right.
everyone buys it at the 45 price. No one is gonna you can't tell me people would have looked at the $40 price and been like, sold, and then someone's like 45, and they were like, oh, too rich for my blood, like the extra
Right.
five, like, no, of course not.
The people that want this are going to buy it at that price point.
They're gonna buy it at
It has
45 or 40,
yeah.
whatever.
So it's
Wherever they
like
put it.
you're telling me now that I have to prioritize this because I have won all this obviously, and they're not doing a physical, which really pisses me off.
They're not doing a physical at all. Why are they doing like all this stuff? Like, just make
exactly.
it.
Just it's
The
a
pre-order
digital
bonus.
release. Just charge $45, include everything, call it a day.
Yeah.
Like you're not gonna make or break this collection with that $5 difference and just selling the base game. It makes no sense.
And yeah, especially like this optically looks way worse than if they were just like Sonic Origins. It's $45. Here's all the stuff it comes with. That would have looked great on paper to have
Sure.
just one thing that was like Sonic Origins. It's $45, but the reason why it's a little over 40 is because it's got hard mode, mirror mode, all these animations, all these controls over the camera, the music pack, the letterbox background, free coins included. That would have seemed like a no-brainer because it's a little more than $40. It's a weird price to be 45 instead of 40 or 50 or something.
Sure.
But it's like that because they're stacking it full of content. On paper, that would look and sound awesome. It'd be like, dude,
Right.
we're getting remakes of the first 4 games with a bunch of new content, hard mode missions, mirror mode missions. Amazing. But now it looks like
right.
a weird, strung out.
Now we have to have this like, weird conversation about like why all this pricing over 4 games in a collection when 20 years ago they did this collection on the GameCube. It included 7 games and it included a bunch of unlocks for $40. It included a bunch of unlocks, all kinds of shit you could do. A museum, you could like look back at like old like videos of like Sonic the Hedgehog commercials and like old advertising content and all kinds of cool shit. And this I like this for $40 you're looking at like $10 a game. And with like if you buy it pre-order to get everything, it's $11 a game effectively. So it's I don't know. It just seems like it's a weird hair to split.
It's one of those things where it's like I think optically it's really weird that they strung it all apart like this.
Right.
And if they had just left it as one thing outright, like if they had announced it and been like it's $45 and it comes with everything, we wouldn't be doing anything other than being like it's coming out, it's probably going to be awesome. Well, let's move on. That would have been our discussion.
Right.
Like now we have to talk about the optics and the reasoning behind this of why they're even doing this in the first place. This could have easily just been one package with one deal. And you know it's funny too because like we've seen all these other things do this. Mega Man X, Mega Man ZX, the old Mega Man Legacy, not Legacy, what's it called? Like regular Mega Mans, Mega Man X's, and ZX, all were just like here's collections, here's your price, whatever,
yeah, $40, clean,
and
take away.
And this because it has all this extra content, the mirror mode, the hard mode, like all this other stuff. That's awesome, and I totally get why it costs a little more because they added that content and everything. It's stuff that's new, it's stuff that's unique, that's great. But like, I think that like they were so eager to try and like give people options on this that they just made it look like it's a grift, like it's like here's all this extra stuff that we're
none of this feels together. Good. from a
Right. It's
consumer
like
perspective.
right. Well, it's like yeah, it's one of those things where like it feels like sketchy just looking at it. And even results wise, it's actually not bad. You literally just pre-order the deluxe edition and you get everything. But they could have just had that be a thing. They could have just been like pre-order the deluxe edition today and receive everything. And that would have been great. People would have been okay with that too.
Right.
Like it still would have been awesome to have to pre-order, but like end of the world, okay, I have to put my money on the game the day before it comes out instead of like the day it comes out. People would have been okay with it, I think. I think this just feels like it's almost, I don't want to say insulting because I'm not personally insulted by this, but I can see a lot of people looking at this and feeling like they're being taken for a ride,
Oh,
right?
and that's basically what the effect was on Twitter. I mean, the response
Yeah.
to this was not
Even
what,
though
what
you're
they were
not
expecting.
really like you're paying $45 for the entire collection with all the stuff in it,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what you should do. Anyone should just do that instead of paying 40 and then who knows what the other two packs are going to be separately later and
Right.
whatever. But like it feels like something's wrong. Like you know, it's like that. Like it's like a carnival game. Like you walk up to the carnival game and you're like, this feels like I'm going to get scammed if I play it. And the dude's like, no, it's totally legit. I promise. And you're like, okay. And then you play the game and you're like, okay, it is legit. But maybe you shouldn't make it look like a carnival game because a lot of these are notoriously like mathematically scams.
Right.
So maybe don't dress it up like that. And that's what this feels like. It feels like it's dressed up like a weird, grifty thing to like try and take people's money in a weird way. Even though it really, like practically you can get through this by just doing the one shot at the end and calling it a day or whatever.
Yeah.
It's such a weird, and it goes back to like we talk about like this is the kind of problem they created this problem for themselves for nothing. They could have easily just not done it this way, and it would have been fine. No one would even be talking about it. People would be excited about a Sonic game.
Exactly.
That would have been all the preps
the
they got.
Height of like the popularity of Sonic with the movie out, with them talking about that open world Zelda like Breath of the Wild style Sonic the Hedgehog.
Oh, Frontier. Yes.
Yeah. And it's just Sonic. It's just Sega. They just sometimes can't get out ahead of themselves, man. It's just
it's I don't know what. Maybe they haven't been around long enough. I guess I don't know. That's their thing, right?
Yeah. Sega been around for ages.
Been around for ages. No, it just feels like one of those really really weird missteps. You know what I mean? It'd be like. Like imagine if you walked into like Burger King and you were like, "I'm gonna get a burger," and you looked at the menu and the menu had like the bun, the burger, the lettuce, and the tomatoes, and the cheese, and each of them was like $1, and you're like, "Can I just get a cheeseburger?" And they're like, "Yeah, it's like $5." Everyone does that, and I'm like, "Why does your menu have it all spaced out and priced separately?" And they're like, "Oh,
right."
It's like, this looks stupid. This looks like you're taking me for a ride for every individual thing I buy. When in reality, if it was just one price for like the one complete item, I wouldn't even question it. I would just buy it. Like,
yeah, it's absolutely
so
a mess. This chart has no reason to exist, to say the least. And the thing is too, it's like it's like for some people, like you could wait on this. This will be $20 in 6 months, and then throw on the extra DLC. For at price, because that's what they usually do. They'll keep the DLC the same price, and then they'll discount the game to entice you to buy the DLC. So it's like in the long run you'll probably save money waiting this out instead of getting stuck in that fear of missing out situation.
I will be completely straightforward here. I think, and I'll make my guess now on this. I think within 1 year from the launch of this game, it'll be either free on Epic, free on PlayStation Plus, on Game Pass. Actually, not even on Game Pass. I think it'll be free either on PlayStation or it'll be on Epic's Game Store for free.
Sure.
Or it will end up in a Humble Bundle where you can get it as part of like the pay $7 or less, pay $15 or less, yada yada yada.
I have one of those Sonic.
I would not be surprised. Yeah, I also have that Sonic bundle, which is why I was like, I wouldn't be surprised if this would show up in a bundle.
Right.
Because I know that and it's a good thing to do that partnership because that usually goes for charity and stuff. So I'm not clowning on them and being like, this will be in a bundle for cheap later. But Sonic in particular is one of those game franchises where it is not a Nintendo franchise. It does not hold value over year.
Right.
I don't think you'll ever see a Sonic game unless Frontier knocks it out of the park. You'll never see a Sonic game maintain its core like value for an entire year on price.
Never. No. Yeah. So, and then to make matters worse, Devolver Digital doing Devolver Digital things put up their own chart.
Oh my god! Yeah.
Trek to Yami and this was glorious. And
they are kind of about that.
Breaking down what you get with the game when you buy their game, and the funny thing is like their game is significantly less expensive, and it's an indie studio, and it's weird how like the indie studios can pull off these prices. I don't know,
Sure.
but it's yeah. You get the base game, you get it for 10% off. Epic journey through the underworld and back. Stunning
And back.
visuals, remarkable soundtrack, progressively complex combat, full credits at the end.
Yeah, and that's they're innovating with that
They
full
are,
credits
man.
because usually most games that I play, the credits are locked behind an extra $1 purchase.
Right? Yeah, yeah. There's so many games I just don't. I don't even know who made them because I didn't pre-order them.
Yep, I'll never forget when I got to the end of Bioshock Infinite and you know you beat the game and then like the song starts playing and the credits roll and like they roll like up like to the bottom of the screen and then it's like please enter access code and I was like I didn't get one.
Nice. All right,
Yeah.
let's move on to our next big story of the week. We have Nintendo a lot of Nintendo leaks this week. We had
Yeah, it seemed like a lot.
we had a GBA emulator, a GBA Game Boy Advance. We had a Game Boy emulator. We also had an NES leak, so we have some information about some NES games that are coming to be coming out to the NSO. And we got some, some other things cool at Nintendo. We got a couple announcements on Splatoon and Xenoblade. We'll talk about that in short term here. Let's focus on
Mhm.
the Game Boy Advance emulator here for a second. So it sounds like, and many game leaks, unfortunately, end up on, their origins to be traced back to 4chan. Um, so it seems like this dev kit kind of thing kind of surfaced on there. They found some emulators. The I forget what the hell it was called, like Goop or Sploop or something like that.
Hmm.
Um, the GBA emulator, and then they had like the Game Boy emulator come out. So they packed these things up, ran the codes. They got them on the Switches pretty comfortably. It looks like they were packed with like 25 games. Some of them, all of them being like basically big titles, like you would expect to see on a Game Boy Advance, including like Golden Sun, Mega Man Battle Network, and a couple other games too. So it's interesting to say the least.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, for people that are waiting for Game Boy Advance stuff to come to the Switch, I think at this point, it's pretty safe to say that it will be coming. It's just kind of a matter of when at this point now. The only interesting things that they saw here was that I guess they must be working on or like I don't know if they're like demaking the Easy Flash cart, but you can see like they had like a functionality to like dump to an Easy Flash cart in this emulating software. Which I mean, it's embarrassing for Nintendo because it makes them complete hypocrites on their ideologies as far as piracy and stuff, especially if they're like reverse engineering Easy Flash carts to make this shit work. So, but
Yeah, and I mean we could speak to that all day because they've
sure.
done what was it? The NES Classic was a literal emulation flashcard thing.
Hmm.
Like it wasn't actually like ports of. I mean, we've seen at least that time. I think there's been a few other times where people have confirmed that it's been like just like basically they downloaded ROMs off the internet of their own games and then slapped them into like their first party hardware and called it like a thing or whatever.
Right.
So it's not it's unfortunately not something new.
Sure. No doubt. Um, yeah, they also had like a Game Boy emulator leak too. So I mean, people expecting to see a lot of that on there. Um,
Mhm.
and this is kind of like if you're a fucking fan of the podcast, this is the stuff that I've been bitching about for a long time, pretty much since the podcast's inception,
Yeah,
about getting Game Boy Advance stuff on this damn system. So yeah, I'm definitely excited for it, but it's like we don't know how old this revision of this emulator is, so we don't know where they are as far as development. We don't know if there's a timetable on it. Of course, this leak we can't really date it. This could be a very early project. This could be an old project. This could be something that Nintendo scrapped. So until we get an official announcement from Nintendo, I mean it's better than nothing at this point, but it's until we get that official announcement from Nintendo, I mean, we're just gonna have to kind of wait, and time will tell.
yeah. I kind of dread that it's going to end up being part of like the expansion pack paid service.
Yeah. I don't really want to spend any extra money on that, to be honest.
Agreed.
I don't know if it's going to be like a fork or even another tier above the N64 and Sega Genesis. If it is, that's not going to feel very good, or go over really well. Or it could just be like an alternative fork, or you get like a discount if you already have like the upgrade expansion pack or whatever you want to call it. I don't know.
Yeah,
I wouldn't mind the fork per se, but at the same time, I wouldn't mind it being in the base Nintendo Online either.
yeah, of course. I'd like to see it in the base, but I almost wonder if, from their perspective, do you think the smart move for them, the way they see it, would be you add the Game Boy Advance to the high tier, like the current top tier one, and you kick like the N64 and the Genesis down to the free one because it makes people come back for the free one as well as for the paid one because the paid people have new things to do and the free people get new
Yeah,
things to do too.
it would make sense, but not Nintendo sense. That's the
I was gonna say that's not a good. They won't. It won't happen
what
like
I
that,
could
will
see them doing is
it?
putting like the regular Game Boy in the free tier with like the Nintendo and the Super Nintendo, and then maybe
Mhm.
putting the Advance in the extra tier, which would
Paid tier.
absolutely
Yeah,
suck for me, because
it's it's
that would be my worst case scenario.
it's like the worst outcome, which is means it's probably what's gonna happen.
Exactly. Um, yeah. So I mean, once we get any other information out of this, we'll certainly report about it. I mean, it seems like it's all pretty legitimized. They've found traces of like employee from Nerd, which is Nintendo Europe research division. They're that's the division that came up with the Super FX chip, I believe. Originally, their employee codes and employee names and stuff are in this, like some of the code that they found. So I mean, it's a good sign to see that this is like at least official. Um, at the end of the day. And again, it's just one of these things where like time will tell. We don't know if this is like a project that they're currently working on. This could be something that was like backburnered, and it's just some employee just wants to fuck with the fucking internet.
Mhm.
We don't know. So that's how rumors work. you
Oh
know,
yeah, absolutely.
big time. But we also did get another leak with Nintendo Switch Online. With the NES games coming out, and I guess a couple of screenshots leaked with a mysterious amount of Mega Man games, and a couple Castlevania games, and I think it's a Pac-Man, a Tetris, Galaga, and it's strange to me that with Capcom, because they hold their little collections very close to the chest too, that they would
Mhm.
include these, especially when you can go on the eShop right now and buy the digital copy of like the Mega Man collections for half off every other week. So
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know if maybe they just figure that those packs have run their course as far as making money,
I
and
mean,
now they're including
I
them in
guess
there.
yeah,
But I
it
would
could be.
actually love to see like Chippendale's Rescue Rangers come to the Switch Online. The sequel of that, which is very expensive to find online, I would love to see come to that. That gives people, legitimate access at least to playing games that are run you hundreds of dollars on in the real world, outside of
Absolutely.
doing accessing these games illegally. So
Sure.
yeah, it would just be nice to see. But yeah, it's interesting to see a lot of these games, like I said, like with Capcom, a lot of them looks like they're getting like the special editions. For those that know, like the SP editions, I guess I get. If you're not familiar with that, they just kind of pre-cheat code the games. I don't know. They're like almost like game saves, where it's like
Hmm.
all the hard work's done. You just fight the boss. Um, but you'll see them because they usually have like a little red ribbon on the icons, and right next to the normal side of the game. So
Yeah.
a lot of the Mega Mans have that. Um, yeah.
Metroid has several of them.
Uh-huh.
So does Zelda, I think. Zelda has like a couple different versions of it.
Right. But yeah, again, Castlevania being on like Castlevania collection, that's just again, that's very strange to see um come to the Switch in that form. So again, it's one of those kind of speculative deals where it's like I don't know if this is legit or not, but it really seems like this is. So we'll see, especially they'll do a patch and then they'll be able to data mine, and we'll see what's happening, and we'll hear about it on Twitter once again. So
It's
what
okay.
else?
We're gonna get the new feature on the Switch where they're gonna bring back Street Pass, and they're gonna make Street Pass on the Switch, but then it's gonna be like
Street
NFTs
Pass
where like
was
everyone gets one, and you have to like trade with people.
that would actually be interesting. Dude, Street Pass on the Switch was missing from the Switch was such a miss.
Yeah,
Oh my god! Like, why would you do
right.
that?
Like going back to like, hey, we're doing handheld console that can be brought anywhere. Do we bring that thing from the 3DS over that everybody
Yeah.
did? No.
Let's get rid of all the quality of
Okay.
life shit that everyone loved. Fucking get rid of it. Let's charge for amiibos that no one wants or plays with. Um,
Oh my
so
god, the stupid. What was that Zelda game that did that? Made me so angry because it was
the
absolutely for nothing.
not Wind Waker, the Skyward Sword
Skyward
one.
Sword. Like they were like, "Hey, we did this awesome quality of life improvement, and we locked it behind an amiibo just because." And it was like, "Wait, what?"
Well,
Okay.
it was like saving your game and like keeping it or fast travel.
It was fast travel. You
Fast
could fast
travel.
travel on the spot if you had the amiibo.
And the funny thing is, I have that amiibo and I don't have the game.
There you go.
I thought it looked cool.
Well, it's just like the fact that the amiibo is like an extra $15 and that functionality is tied to it. Like it doesn't seem like it on paper, but in practicality, the game costs $60, $50, $60, whatever you buy it for, and then the ability to fast travel whenever you want is a paid microtransaction of like another
On
$15.
an amiibo that
That's
no one could find for like
wild.
the first 3 weeks of that game coming out.
Well, like imagine the optics if they just digitally inserted into the game. Would you like to fast travel anytime? It's $14.99, and you could buy it in game. That would be like super shitty optically, right? You'd be like, oh my god, what a cash grab from people
Right.
to like wave fast traveling at them from any location and be like it's literally $15 in game. But then it's like, oh, but it's part of an action figure thing that we sell, and you're like, oh, that's fine. And it's like, no, it's not fine. It's still a
It's
$15
not
microtransaction for
fine.
this game.
Right.
Like, what do you mean?
Right.
And people were like, at least when they did Twilight Princess, there was a version that came with the amiibo packed in, and it didn't actually give you like a quality of life improvement. It was just like an extra thing you could do, I guess.
Hmm.
But it wasn't like a full on quality of life. I mean, even in Metroid, you have those two Metroid amiibos you can use where they give you a health and a missile pack, I think, and then you can reuse them after that to restore some. But like that's not like we're not talking about something where you can get a million of them in the game normally, and then there's just one more available through the amiibo. This is like a feature that's locked behind the amiibo completely,
Right.
and it's a big quality of life change. Like holy shit! Imagine like yeah, Destiny 3 comes out and Destiny 3 like hey, we're doing amiibos now. It's on the Switch, and if you want mantling, mantling is locked behind this amiibo of a Destiny dude mantling. Like
Yeah.
okay.
You can't use ships unless you have this amiibo. You gotta walk.
Oh my god,
you,
yeah, you can't.
you gotta
Yeah,
walk through your fucking planet, man.
no sparrows.
Start
Sparrows are
swimming.
locked behind the sparrow amiibo.
It'd be fucking
God,
terrible.
God, it would be insane. And I don't know how that. Actually, I'm surprised that there wasn't a lot of people talking about that. It feels like everyone was just like, ugh. But then no one said anything. Like you didn't hear like long discourse about it. I
Right.
don't know. It was weird. Definitely weird.
Very weird. Um, yeah. So we got some news this year with Zelda Breath of the Wild being pushed back till next spring.
Yep.
Which again, it was pretty much they stated at the E3 that like we're aiming for 2022. This is not a promise. And then the internet lost their fucking shit anyway, so like they do. But
Yeah.
because of that, we saw some shuffling of games as well. So I guess Xenoblade was moved up to July 29th. So that's good to see that they had that done and rolling and ready. And a lot of people were speculating too with like lack of like Splatoon news and information that will probably get pushed back. So it looks like Xenoblade and Splatoon just kind of traded places. Splatoon originally being planned for summer, obviously getting pushed back now to September. Which I don't September 9th. I don't know if that's still technically summer or not. Like, are they going to qualify that as summer on the hair of their ass on that one? But
Yeah, no.
So this has also led to a lot of speculation that we might get a Zelda pack collection of maybe like the Wind Waker and Twilight Princess on a Switch game. So we'll see. And that's the thing too is Nintendo has still yet to announce like their big announcement, like their last big announcement was announcing a lot of spring titles and a peppering of like end of the year stuff. And they're at the point now where I think they're almost competing with themselves because they're just releasing so many fucking games. But I think this is just an effect of just unkinking the hose of all the COVID problems that we've had with development that we've seen with every game company. So it's just a lot of games are coming all at once. I mean, we saw like that week where Horizon came out. What else came out? Obviously Elden Ring came out that week, and then a couple other games that were like really big came out. And then right behind it was like Lego Star Wars and a couple other games then. So it's Yeah, it was like a lot of games coming out all at once. So yeah, at some point you have to question like whether or not you're competing against yourself. And I see this like shuffling as something as maybe to kind of compensate for that. But I would expect to see, um, because they really haven't done much for the Zelda anniversary beyond that Game and Watch thing.
We'll say they announced like the Game and Watch, and I think they even said outright they were like, we don't really have plans for the anniversary, but here's the Game and Watch thing, and people were like, oh, okay.
Right.
Kind of a big franchise, kind of a big deal.
Yeah, kind of important. Like Nintendo is kind of important. Like, why do we have to tell you that? Uh, so, I would not be shocked to see a Zelda collection pack announced for like maybe like late fall, before holiday season shopping shit starts. So yeah, we'll keep an eye out, keep posted on that one as well. Last big story of the night too. Something I don't really want to fucking talk about because I'm going to get angry at it, but Microsoft and Sony kind of both announced plans to start inserting ads into games. Not a great look, and I'm not about it. Microsoft said that they want to start looking in the avenue of putting in advertisements in their free games, where PlayStation's just like, yeah, we're just going to put ads in games, like in general. I think it's kind of a really bad decision. It's a very bad slippery slope as far as acceptability, and I'm already seeing people online like squabbling over the quote unquote console war people fighting over this, and they're already making like these bad justifications, like, oh well, Sony said they're doing games and all or ads in all the games. Microsoft's only doing it in their free ads, and it's like, no, you should be angry at both.
Yeah,
like
neither one's really acceptable.
Neither are acceptable, and when you start making those false dichotomies like that, you're giving acceptance to Microsoft to do it just for their free games, and it's not gonna stop there. It's never going to stop there. This is a slippery slope. They can start slow dripping it into pay for games as well. So it's just because like Sony is going to get a head start on this, if they even do and plan on implementing it. Microsoft's going to be there too, and like we've seen this 100 times with this like slippery slope, pushing the envelope with like shitty mechanics. Like we're starting to see like mobile shitty like marketing practices of mobile games starting to bleed into like regular games, like you saw with the Sonic the Hedgehog and their stupid chart. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, this is just, it's bad for gaming in general, and I think game developers need to do a better do better than this, especially with like navigating the gaming culture. I think sometimes the gaming culture as far as game devs is just they look at gamers as just the sum of their wallets, and you can't, especially when you're this blatant about it.
Absolutely.
I can assure you I would never stream a game that just blatantly has like just banner ads or whatever, and it's like, it's one thing for like I guess maybe to have like some product placement. It still does, I still don't feel good about it, and I still don't really think it's acceptable. But if I'm gonna sit here and like I have to like wait to watch a commercial and then click through it to play a game that I just spent $60 on, that's horseshit. Yeah, that's like absolutely unacceptable.
I guess in certain contexts, like if I was playing a game like Cyberpunk and there was like billboards advertising like a product or something, I guess I probably wouldn't even think twice about it. I'd be like, yeah, I get it. I'm in a city, there's a billboard, the billboard advertises the product. If the company makes a deal with like Wendy's to have like a Wendy's billboard in Cyberpunk that comes by sometimes, and that's the end of it, I might not even ever see it. Some people might not even see it. Some people just see it in passing, whatever. I don't think I have that big of a problem with that kind of thing. I think when it starts to impact the player in terms of like slowing us down, making us wait, forcing us to interact, I think that's when it's a problem.
Sure, it's inhibitive of the content.
When it affects the actual gameplay and stuff, I would have a big problem with it. I mean, and that does count for things like immersion, like on your screenshot here, you've got like Elden Ring, like a KFC billboard or something. Like obviously that would throw me right out of the game if I saw that in that world or whatever. And that would also be a problem for the industry, because then you've got people being like, hey, do you want to make a medieval knights and sword and board game? And they're like, no, because if I set that game in the 21st century, I can do advertising on billboards, or I can do advertising for modern day products that I couldn't get away with in the old days. So financially, I'm incentivized to make a game in the current day or whatever. And then all of a sudden, how many projects end up getting shifted into like modern day storytelling simply because there's a financial incentive to do it? Like, so I could see why it could be a problem, even if inherently like having it in the game in some games isn't a problem. It would sort of force people's hands to move in that direction in a way that would be unhealthy for the industry.
And think about how like the shift to like always online gaming, with like single player games. Even you're looking at like Forza. Um, think about like playing like a single player game that's offline, and you can't play it because it didn't get the patch for the latest ads, and because the
Yeah,
advertiser
exactly.
didn't pay to have that extra time, then you have to go online and update that to get those ads, or you're locked out of the game. It's like, I
Right.
could see that being poorly executed as well. Um, I just think that's nothing about this is good. Nothing good can come from it, and honestly, I just I really hope that like people get outspoken enough to prevent this kind of shit from happening.
No, absolutely.
I mean, it was bad enough when what was it the I remember on the Xbox 360 we had the blade system. They got rid of the blade system and they put that like panel system up, and all of a
Mm-hmm.
sudden, a couple of weeks later, we're getting like little banner ads and stuff in those panels. I just couldn't you couldn't like flip a page on that system without getting like an army recruitment ad, or advertisements for stuff that wasn't even game related. And I was like,
Yep.
this is a horrible experience, and that's what really turned me off, to the Xbox as a whole, and that's why I switched. Not one of the reasons why, but it was like one of the big reasons why I switched from Microsoft to PlayStation and that next generation.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, I feel like there's a lot of like I mean I use like obviously like modern forms of social media, and I see the same thing with like even on like Twitter or something. I'll be scrolling and it'll be like an advertisement for something that I don't care about,
Right.
and it's just like kind of wedged in between my other stuff. We've seen it in news articles for the longest time. News articles where like you'll be scrolling a news article and there'll be like an ad sort of hidden in the news article as if it was like a different headline.
Mm-hmm.
Like even if I new tab right now on my computer, I've got a news thing, I've got Fortune. My third one is an ad for Progressive, and it's framed as if it's an article about how I could save money with Progressive, as if it was like an actual article that's something happening in the news when it's just an ad.
Right.
Like it's just ridiculous how like it's so buried in everything at all
There's
times,
and that's the
and
thing. It's like
it's
if advertising is so morally bankrupt to that point where they're trying to trick you into thinking that you're reading a news article, then why
right.
would I want that in my fucking games? Like
Well, exactly. Games are one of the places we don't have to deal with it really.
right.
It's one of the only places
and
really where you
and
don't ever have to deal
advertisers
with it.
can't fucking stand it. So
Hmm.
here we are.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's tough. I get monetization, but that's another thing I have an issue with. I understand monetization, and I get why games do DLC. I get why games do add-ons. I get why games do charges or whatever
Hmm.
games as a service because it's a model that makes money over time. But like, I don't know. I have a hard time when it's like when an indie game does like a Kickstarter where they say like, "Hey, we're doing this and that and the other because we'll make the money back that way and we'll be able to keep making content." Fine, that's fine. But
Right.
when you've got like someone at the level of like Activision or at the level of like Ubisoft or at the level of like even like these bigger ones that are doing really well this year, like it's wild to think that they're like considering it. Like Square Enix, I love Square Enix to death, but oh my god, being like, yeah, we'll move into NFTs, and it's like, but why? You
Right.
guys can't tell me you don't make enough money. I mean, obviously some of your games flop, but one of the most successful games on the planet right now is a game that people play to pay monthly. You can't possibly tell me that the revenue off 14 alone is like propping up your whole business like to crazy extents.
Right. So they can afford to take losses on Marvel and all the other
Yeah,
nonsense.
yeah. But like even just like, and then they'll do like, well, we gotta look into Ubisoft, like, oh yeah, we're going into NFTs, and it's like, you guys are a huge company. You guys could like bleed money for like an entire year and probably not care. I mean, look at like Nintendo. Nintendo, they don't have the behavior, but financially, Nintendo could move into like really shitty behavior tomorrow, and they could last for like a decade on a loss. They could operate at a loss for like a decade.
Hmm.
And like they're like we've seen Nintendo put out entire flop consoles and then just ride it out and then wait for the next one.
Right.
Like
It's
you
just
can't
got
tell me these companies need like the pennies they get from like click through revenue from ads or some dumb shit that they're gonna put in games. Like,
right. It's like how much money do you need at this point? It's
mhm.
like, um, if your company expansion is contingent on this to make your shareholders happy, then I think this experiment called capitalism is not sustainable. Um,
Yeah, that's a big part of it. Trust me, we could do a whole other podcast on
we sure could. We're not going
that.
to, but we sure could.
But
Um,
no, I agree. It's just like, and I guess for me in particular, I'm in like a head place where like I'm reading through I'm reading that book I told you about, Game On,
Mm-hmm.
and it talks about game development history all the way back to like the 90s, the late 80s, and up until today. And I'm getting through it, and I'm seeing more and more of like these startup companies. They start up, they make their games, and they absolutely kill it in sales. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's popular. Gaming as an entertainment form is extremely popular, and they accumulate a lot of power very quickly, a lot of money, and then like a lot of the newer companies, especially the more modern ones, like not the old hands like Nintendo, or even maybe like to an extent like Sony or Microsoft to an extent, but like these newer like corporate AAA studios like Ubisoft and EA and all these. The reason why we always meme on these people for being so shitty about their money practices is because they have like if you actually look at how much money they have, it's insane. Like the stuff they can do, the stuff they can pull, like the losses they can take. And like you said, we've got studios out there in Japan being like, we're gonna raise the base pay by like a fuck ton because we can, because we should. And you'll never see that in America. We've seen Microsoft do 4-day work weeks in Japan. They
Mm-hmm.
tested it out over there and they said that it was the best thing they ever did. Not
It'll
only was it
never
better for the
happen.
employees, like significantly better for the employees, the company made more money. They didn't have to have their store open one day or their studio open one day, so they saved on all the bills for that. Plus, they were the people were more productive, significantly more productive for
Mm-hmm.
the one extra day they had or whatever. And and then they didn't even have to worry about like benefits as much because when you had people with a third day off, it was a lot easier for them to plan their week around it. Especially like a husband and wife or like a couple, a pair could like 3 days, 3 days off, and then they'd only have one day to have to work it out instead of like if me and the wife both had full time jobs, we each get 2 days off. There's still 3 days we have to work around.
Sure.
Well, if it was a 3 day, 3 day off, we'd only have one day to work around. It's a lot easier. Um, Man, and it was literally better for Microsoft, better for their company, better for the employees. Literally everyone benefited from it, and then they were like, "Yeah, we'll stick to that in Japan." And people were like, "And everywhere else that you like run companies," and they were like, "No, no, no, no." And it was like, "You said it makes you guys more money. It makes everyone in the office happier. Like, what's the problem?" And they just were like,
Yeah. Cultural
"Okay."
backlash, probably.
Probably, I almost guarantee it. Yeah, I mean, we see this all the time with a lot of different things. In the game industry, people like you can't even go on you can't even go on like Twitter or like Reddit and be like, oh, I'm a game designer. I do models for characters without people being. I just saw something the other day. They were like, someone does a 3D. This girl I follow on Twitter who does 3D models and 3D modeling, and she's
Mm-hmm.
very very good about educating. She talks about topography, quads and tries, how you can reduce things to make them more efficient, how you can make your files smaller, what tricks you can pull with your textures to make them take less space so you can make your files better.
Mm-hmm.
And she'll be like talking about like articulating like a person's leg or like the lower torso of a person, and it'll be like their feet and their from like their shin to almost the bottom of their knee, and then the upper part of their femur, the thigh. None of that stuff has to bend or move like at all.
Mm-hmm.
The textures don't move, nothing bends, nothing really twists. So that stuff could be just simple quads, and then like the knees, the ankles, the toes, the hips, the parts that bend and move are the parts where it's going to bend and manipulate. So you want extra quads to make sure that the textures don't get all weird in those areas.
Right. Right.
And then people are like quote tweeting her and being like, not a game dev, just because she did like 20 years of 3D modeling. And it's like, what are you talking about? How do you think the games get made? Who do you think makes the characters in the
That's
game work?
right.
Like, you're not a game dev.
That's the. I mean, that's like a core component. Like
I don't,
it's,
I don't get
it's
it.
what I went to school for.
It's insane.
It's like I just wow, that's mind-boggling.
It completely blew me. And then I think she like the only reason I saw it because she quotes you and she was like, "I guess I'm not a game developer," even though she has credits on multiple AAA titles for characters. She did like Lara Croft Tomb Raider, like specifically was one of the ones that she did
Mm-hmm.
for the new Tomb Raiders, and it was like,
She was
how,
responsible for the actual character.
yeah, the whole character model. She
Not
talks
a
about how
dev
she does
though.
all these tricks to make the character work. Like she ported, I think it was she ported a character from PS4 and PC and everything to the Switch, and she talked about how there was all kinds of tricks you could pull where like you could make like because on like the PS4 or whatever it was, like the character's model was very detailed and it had a lot of
Mm-hmm.
clips and it had little things on it that moved and things were physics affected, so it was a very like like something you'd see in Horizon.
Sure.
And she was like, I had to go in there and I had to like start melding meshes together so they became static. And then maybe I would do a certain thing so that it could move in one spot or two spots that would give it the illusion of being a fluid thing, just when you caught it moving a little sometimes, or
Mm-hmm.
this and that. And she would have trim models and do this and do that and change the way lighting works so that you have this very detailed piece, but what you're seeing is only visually presented to the player, but not affected by lighting. So the actual lighting model is like just a rough shape of it, so that the shadow it projects on the ground matches the actual detailed piece, but the detailed piece isn't actually interacting with the light and the ray tracing and everything. And it's really cool from a tech perspective to watch her talk about this, and it's really shitty to watch people like retweet her and just be like, "This isn't real game dev," and you're like, this is like the core of game dev. This is how games get on your games. This is how this happens. Like, what are you talking about?
Do people think that it's just dudes typing on computers, like smashing code? Like,
I think a lot of people think like programming is game making, and anything artistic isn't. Even though like her making character models is programming, though it really is programming. Like,
you're programming,
and people don't think of it like that.
And the overall result is the character model. Like, that is that shit insane. And like 3D Max, like this, which is like the standard, or at least it was the standard for 3D modeling, it has command line in it. So
absolutely it does.
Even Photoshop has command line. That is bad shit, dude. I'm blown away by that.
Yeah, I feel bad. She was getting a lot of junk lately from like the Souls community, is what it was, because she was talking about how Elden Ring could have been paced better. So she started talking about like how you could have like one area in the very beginning be like a starter area where they teach you some basic mechanics, and then the second area is like a half ring with like more complex enemies, and like it's your hub with like crafting, vendors, yada yada yada. And then you have a big strip for part 3, which is like where the game is open, like Breath of the Wild style, or Elden Ring kind of is already, with little pockets of higher difficulty. And then the harder part would be like over here, you have a hard section with a new hub with new characters that also do the same functionality as the easy zone, so you don't have to go to the easy zone if you're like a hardcore player. And then the hard stuff branches from the hard area, and you have it all like organized so that players are encountering things as they should be encountering them with proper pacing, and that way people don't just walk out and get murdered by like the tree sentinel and then be like, I don't know what to do, and then put the game down, or like go somewhere else and get lost, and they end up not being able to like. So she's like, it fixes a lot of pacing problems. And there was people like being like, this person doesn't know what they're talking about. They don't know anything about game design. And it was like, dude, she's been in the industry for 20 years doing all kinds of stuff. Like, and even as a character modeler, you don't just character model. Like, you talk to all the other departments. You like, you cross pollinate with everybody about what's happening in the projects. And it was just wild to watch her spend the time to like hand draw a bunch of drawings of how it should be or what would work better. Like subjectively, like her opinion of how they could improve a few things, like people missing the tutorial. Like half the people who play Elden Ring didn't know this is a tutorial. I just watched on Twitter, Paul Tassi is like, I'm 40 hours into Elden Ring and I'm still learning new stuff that I should have known already. And then someone's like, did you know you can sprint? And he's like, you can sprint? And it's like, if your game doesn't teach you that you can sprint in the first 40 hours and it's just a basic movement functionality, what is your game even doing? Like, right. Obviously there's a disconnect, you know what I mean? Not like it's like there's obviously a major disconnect if people can play 40 hours of a game. Imagine playing 40 hours of Destiny without knowing you could sprint. Right. Like, oh man. And then of course people were giving her shit and being like, oh, Elden Ring's 10 out of 10. Like, you don't know what you're talking about. And it was like, you can't even have discourse and like talk about subjective improvements to a game system or whatever.
Do you think it'll make it 10? Do you think it'll make it the game of the year this year?
I don't know. It's tough. It might get game of the year because of the hype, but like I said, a lot of people actually who did pick up and play it were meh, and they put it back down. I mean, most people I know.
It's almost like a fucking like personality cult at this point.
Yeah, but and that's the thing is, I know that there's still, as far as games that came out this year that can also run up for the game of the year, we still have Xenoblade coming this summer, and to my understanding, Xenoblade usually gets shafted at the Game Awards because I think Xenoblade 2 didn't get it against like no competition or something, is what I heard. I can't speak to the actual like what it ran against, but I remember a lot of people when 3 was announced to be coming out this summer, the split was it's going to be game of the year or it's going to get shafted for Elden Ring because it never gets game of the year because the last 2 Xenoblades didn't get it either for some reason. And it's hard to tell who's fan basing and whatnot, and so I don't know. But I know if I remember correctly, the last 2 Xenoblade games have both been spectacular from what I've heard. I've never touched them, so I have no idea. But I've heard nothing but good things about them.
Couldn't recommend them more. If you're looking for something to do on the Switch, man, you can save some time to those games. And they're beautiful, and they're like, and that's what my baseline is for a lot of like other games where it's like, oh, that we can't do this, we couldn't pull this off on the Switch because of technical limitation. And then it's like, okay, but Xenoblade does. or like if like there's
Yeah,
just
absolutely.
no excuse for some stuff, and that's where it's like you got to call bluffs when you can, or call like bullshit and bluffs when you can, because it's like um just to sit there and say like
Yeah.
you can't, I can't, we couldn't pull this off because technical limitations. Like, great, but I've got a couple of other games over here that says otherwise. You could do it, you just chose not to. Um,
Yeah, absolutely. Um, I mean, honestly, so far, I mean, my game of the year probably so far is either Vampire Survivors or Tunic, but obviously those aren't going to
yeah,
win.
well,
So
I'm telling Tunic, dude, Tunic. I don't know. I will see. It'll win something. It will
yeah,
definitely win
it'll
something.
probably get like an indie category or something
Right.
for sure because it did so much right, even despite my small gripes with a couple of little things.
It
And it's the
takes
kind
two
of stuff
pulling it
that could get
off.
patched. I mean, obviously the level design can't get patched, but like the UI stuff to like show me how many items I'm missing, for example,
Mm-hmm.
easy tweak, right?
Sure.
Um, but I mean, we've also got stuff like what else this year? I think is the Harry Potter game is supposed to be this year,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
a lot of people seem excited about it. I would say
That's
it's
another.
probably got the same kind of hype going that Elden Ring had, where it's
Right.
like there's a lot of people who are very excited
That's
about it.
another personality cult game.
Yeah, no, absolutely it is. I believe if I'm not mistaken, the last we saw of God of War was this year, wasn't it? Like when we got the Ragnarok reveal, it said this
Yeah.
year, and we haven't heard anything yet. So that might still be a contender for this year. But I'm worried
If it
because
comes
sometimes
out.
games that come out in December, they either don't get considered because they're so close to the Game Awards, or they inexplicably win fan favorite of the year when they're only a week old. I mean, I guess it's a mixed bag. I mean, you remember Halo getting
Yeah,
its
yeah,
like
yeah. Oh, I know what you're talking about.
best fan favorite, and it was like nobody had like even played it yet.
Right.
Like, okay,
I
cool.
think like literally it was 24 hours old, and I'm like,
Um,
okay.
you have Horizon Forbidden West this year, which I heard a lot of good things about Horizon until Elden Ring came out, and then the Elden Ring community was all like, "Yeah, like Horizon sucks because it's Horizon," and it was like, okay, but it was a fantastic game up until all
The
of a
game
sudden
doesn't
now it's
suck,
not.
right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it's one
exactly.
thing to like
Like,
joke about it backseating it for Elden Ring, but the game
sure,
does not suck by any stretch of
right,
the
right.
imagination.
There's another one. What else is coming out this year? There's one more game that I can't. It's on the tip of my tongue, but I can't think of it. Oh, the stupid game that I personally would be surprised if it gets it, but Starfield, because that's supposed to be this year, as far as we can tell, still as well. Which I would be willing to
I'm a little bit
bet.
more skeptical about that than you are, but
Well, what I mean is not that it's. I can't speak to how the game's going to be in terms of content or quality. I just don't think it's coming out this year
yeah.
at all. I don't think it's possible that a game that has shown nothing is going to be ready. I mean, we're in April already. We have 8 months left for the rest of the year. 7 months if we want to be in the Game Awards, probably. When is
Well,
this game even slated to come out? Do we even have a month yet, or is it just this
there's a
year?
lot of speculation that this E3 season, because E3 is not a thing anymore, but this Summer of Games season, they're going to release
Like a trailer?
something. But again, that's not confirmed, and if they don't, that game is in trouble. And that's
Okay, I'm seeing November, but still.
yeah, November. So it's going to come out for Christmas. Um, I don't
But we know nothing about it.
think it's going to happen, man. Um, yeah, I think that I look at any other Microsoft property right now. It's showing all the telltale signs of a dumpster fire, just like anything else Microsoft right now. So
Yeah.
we saw the same thing happen with Halo.
Forspoken is this year, but as much as I love Square Enix, games like Forspoken probably not going to be more than an 8 out of 10.
I agree. As much as
And
I'm
I
probably
don't
going
know
to
what it
love it,
is.
yeah.
Yeah, like the footage looks great, and the movement abilities that you seem to have in the game seems like it's going to be a super fun game to play.
Hmm.
But it somehow, like, look at Outriders. Outriders was a great game, but there was just some things that were really weird about it, and I don't think Square Enix is ever capable of shaking those weird things.
Sure.
Every game they make ends up like falling in like the 7 to 9 range because there's always quirky stuff they can't seem to get their head around.
Hmm.
And yeah, I'm excited for Forspoken, and it's probably going to be a great game, and I'm going to enjoy it. But I almost guarantee we're going to be talking about that game when it comes out, and there's going to be weird quirks where it's like, why did they do this way? I don't get it. And yeah, I mean, yeah, it'll be the Outriders again, right? Where Outriders had a bunch of problems at launch, and then they made it like a pretty really good game,
Yep.
like a year later. And it was like, okay, great,
Yeah, I
appreciate
mean,
it, but
if
like
anyone wants to
weird.
try Outriders right now, you can sign up for Stadia, and I think it's the like one of the free games coming out next month.
Yeah, I believe so.
So you can try it out for. I think you get like a month of it. I had a code. I don't know if it's even active anymore. But yeah, go check it out. it's free to play, and you can. It's a way to get access to it without having to pay a dime on it.
Yeah, I mean, there's Ghostwire Tokyo and there's Dying Light 2 Stay Human, but
Forgot about Ghostwire too. I got to go back
I
and
didn't
play
hear
that.
about them being smash hits. I heard that they were like fine.
Well,
And
it got like,
then
so that was like the thing about Ghostwire Tokyo is it got like not great reviews, and then everyone just assumed it was a piece of shit. And then a couple weeks later, I was like, oh, you know what? Ghostwire Tokyo is actually pretty good. So
actually really good.
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think it'll get Game of the Year because of that, but
Well,
I still
yeah.
think it's worth playing.
As much as I hate to say it, a lot of Game of the Year seems to be like a popularity contest where like it doesn't matter which game was actually good, it just matters which game everyone wouldn't shut the fuck up about.
Sure.
And that bothers me a lot because like, dude, there's sometimes where it's like this is Game of the Year. Like Red Dead won like
Right.
Best Music one year or something. Red Dead win Game of the Year, and it beat out like a half a dozen games that were just like. There's no way that it was better than all the. I forget. I just remember there was some things where like. Yeah, I think Red Dead, maybe Red won music. I don't know. I remember there was some really last Game Awards. There was some really like, how is this happening choices,
Right.
And I think it was just it's all a popularity thing because of course they take a vote from everybody and people just whatever's popular is what gets it. I mean,
and that's the thing too. It's like the People's Choice vote only counts for like 10% of like the
yeah,
actual vote
the
or some
panel
shit.
is like 90% of it, and the panel is like Activision dudes and like Ubisoft heads and like
Right. And like
okay,
like
cool,
you know, like even like actor awards and like movie awards and stuff, like that's all bought. Like those awards are bought.
Mm-hmm.
You have agents, they go in, they lobby for the win, and they basically just suck those committees' dicks. You can't tell me that this is going to be any different for the Game Awards. That's why I take these Game Awards honestly for a grain of salt in the first place,
Yeah.
because I just don't trust the already existing industry that isn't upfront with like their process in the first place. They're
Well,
no different.
that's the thing too is like a lot of it comes down to like you like I feel like most of the people watch the Game Awards not because well there's two main things about the Game Awards. One, I feel like most people only watch them because it's a place to find new trailers for games that are like world premieres and new announcements and shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like we used to like a few years ago back when Smash first started, they announced Joker at their first Game Awards, and then the DLC for Smash, and then after that, the next Game Awards was like literally everybody was like, yeah, tonight's that Smash announcement wrapped around, wrapped within like 2 hours of like shit we don't care about.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's a Smash announcement, maybe some new game announcements.
Yeah, Nintendo
then,
had a Smash announcement, and the Game Awards showed up.
Yeah, and then yeah, exactly. And then Jeff Keighley is going to be there to be like, hey, other things are happening, I guess, and we're like, yeah, whatever. But yeah, I think like right now, if like Google, for example, if the Game Awards today announced that there was no new trailers, no world premieres, no none of that at the Game Awards this year, nobody would watch it. Like literally nobody would watch it. I mean, half the time people only even tune into like these other random offshoot things in the hopes that there's trailers. You know what I mean? Like, so yeah, I think that's what drives the Game Awards. And I think my other gripe with things like the Game Awards is like I watch people like Lena Rain talk about it sometimes, and they'll be like, what's funny about the Game Awards is like we pick like the best games that we like in terms of like the categories are weird. It's like okay, RPG game, driving game, shooting game, fighting game, sports game, best music, best indie, best Twitch streamer or something. Cool. And then game of the year. And she was like, what would be cool one year if they were like best like if they had like a music category that was like multiple like best like exciting music piece, best sad music piece, best this that, and then you had games where it was like best story beat in terms of like this moment, like heartbreaking, best uplifting, best oh shit moment, and then like in the gameplay side you had like best puzzle, best combat encounter, best this that, like you get a lot more dynamic results from that because you could get things like Tunic getting into the best puzzle or best music for like ambient music. You could get things like Ghostwire could be set in like best cultural landscape of a game, like that versus like Journey to Yomi versus like God of War Ragnarok or something. It would allow you to have a lot more variety in the options and the winnings, and it would let you appreciate and vote on what you appreciated more about your favorite games instead of just being like, what game did everyone talk the most about this year? Okay, this is your game of the year.
Right.
What game did everyone talk the most about this year? That was a shooting game. Okay, that's your shooting game of the year. Like, you know what I mean? Like, nobody's voting on their favorite game of the year and being like, yeah, I voted for, Outriders for my favorite game of the year for the shooting category because a lot of the combat was really well paced and this and that. And I like the abilities. It's like, no, dude, like, You played it, you liked it, you voted for it. That's the end of this discussion. It's a shooting game, so it goes up against Call of Duty, even though they're like nothing the same. Like, yeah, it's wild. The whole system feels like it could be redone entirely from the ground up in a lot better way.
Oh, I totally,
And I like appreciate the people behind the games too. Like, who designed these puzzles? Who designed these encounters? Who did these level designs? Give these people awards. Don't give, like obviously things like indie games are an exception, like Tunic, because the dude who made Tunic is the dude who get the award. But like, if you think like a certain encounter in God of War Ragnarok was fantastic, find the dude who leads the production team who does the combat encounters, and be like, this production team who did this encounter in God of War gets this award, and have those people get up there.
Sure.
Don't have like the head of Ubisoft go up there and be like, Assassin's Creed, Valheim, whatever it is, the last one, they won this award, so they get up on stage, and the dude gets up on stage and he's like, love it, thank you, couldn't have done it without the whole team. And it's like, no, dude, why did that win? It won because of like a really good puzzle, the best puzzle. Get a puzzle designer up there and have him be like, I did a puzzle. Like,
you think that CEO even fucking plays games? I don't.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? Like, it completely misses the point of like why we like games.
Soulless. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
100% soulless.
I follow a million game dev Twitter accounts, and I can tell you most of these people are awesome people. And you could get any one of those people up on stage and award them for their level design or for their character design or anything like that. And they would love to be up there on the stage doing that, but they don't because they're not the head of a studio or the project head of the whole project. And so they'll never make it on stage to get like an award until they become like the CEO or the CFO or some garbage.
Right.
Like Lena Rain does music for all kinds of games, like Chicory and all that. And I think she's gone up there once because they won like I think like Celeste got best music or something the year that it came out, or it won indie game of the year or something. And she got to go up on stage with like the 4 or 5 people who made Celeste. But as soon as Celeste turns into a 500-person company, which obviously they're not going to specifically, but you get what I'm saying. Once you have a team like Ubisoft with 200-300 people, or Destiny with Bungie with all the people on the Bungie team, they're not going to be like, shooter RPG game of the year, Destiny, and they're going to bring up like the whole team. They're going to be like, no, who's going to go up there? It's going to be like either someone from the community, like Deej or DMG or whoever, or it's going to be like some CEO dude who runs Bungie, that guy that they have in the vid docs or whatever.
Right.
They're not going to be like, oh, why did we win? Was it because Witch Queen's levels are really well designed? Like, get the Witch Queen level designer team up here and have 3 or 4 of them talk. Like, no, that doesn't happen.
Sure.
And it's shitty.
I totally agree.
Yeah. So I didn't mean to go off about that.
It's cool,
just
man.
like it's like the people who do the most work on the projects kind of get the least acknowledgement of it.
Oh, I totally agree. Totally agree. All right, let's move on to we got some upcoming game releases this week. A little bit more plentiful than the last couple. We have Zombie Army 4 Dead War coming to the Switch. The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, that is coming to the PS5, Xbox Series X and S, PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC, April 27th. Vampire the Masquerade Blood Hunt, PS5 and PC, April 27th. Bug Snacks, the Xbox Series X and S, Xbox One, and Switch, April 28th. Dwarf Romantic, that is coming to PC the April 28th, and I think that's already on Steam, but it must be in like that green light or something, but it's I've seen it. It looks like a little casual, like little city builder kind of situation. I've actually debated on getting it, but also we have Rogue Legacy 2 coming out for all you Rogue fans out there. That is definitely one to grab. That is coming to Xbox Series X and S, Xbox One, and PC. We have Rogue Lords coming to PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and the Switch. Sherlock Holmes Chapter 1, PlayStation 4. Unsold, that is SOULED, not unsold like unsold the car.
The game didn't sell.
Yeah.
Unsold.
Xbox Series X and S, Xbox One, Switch, PC. Do you think they sat down and discussed that? Because that's not a great
that's a weird,
great idea.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the big one this month is Nintendo Switch Sports, the sequel to Wii Sports, coming to the Switch April 29th.
Right. Two things real quick.
Yeah.
One, Unsold reminds me of the same kind of thing that happened when they made the 13 Final Fantasy game, and then they made the sequel, and then the sequel. And the sequel to the sequel was called Lightning Returns Final Fantasy 13. Like, they wrote the meme themselves, dude. It did not
Right.
take people less than a day to like make a meme of Lightning going to GameStop and trading back Final Fantasy 13 because it was like a bad game. And it wasn't even picking on the new game that hadn't come out yet. It was literally just the name, Lightning Returns Final Fantasy 13, made it seem like even she didn't like her own game. And holy shit, dude,
Oh
it took no time to
man.
make. Oh, the other thing, I'm gonna send you a link to a tweet you can pull up if you want to. I don't know if you saw this. You mentioned Stanley Parable is getting its like complete edition or whatever it's called.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to look at that tweet I sent you, there's a thing called Crows. I believe they're like a publishing studio, if I'm not mistaken,
Uh-huh.
and they were handling the Stanley Parable like complete edition, whatever, the Ultra Deluxe edition. Yeah, that's it. And they were accidentally given admin access to not only the port they were doing of the Ultra version, but also the base game.
Mm-hmm.
And so as a result, the dude added Guy Fieri to the background image of the base game, and then every now and then he would increase the opacity of Guy Fieri, so he was showing up more and more in the background picture until eventually he showed up enough that someone like caught it and they found out, and then they made him change it back.
Oh my god. Let me see if I
So
can
if you
pull
look
it
at
up
like,
here.
there's pictures from the Steam store where like you can see like a very faded out Guy Fieri, and then the next one has like him showing up more. And the dude's like, yeah, it's back to normal now, but like if you look on the way back, you can still see like all the changes I made.
Oh my god. That's incredible.
like
God
because
bless.
they accidentally gave him access to the base game, and he was like, why not? Like, oh man, I just got a kick out of that. You can't make that shit up. That's so funny.
Yeah, if you're listening to the audio version of this, you are absolutely missing out. Go watch the VOD on Twitch or watch this on YouTube because holy shit, that's incredible. I love it.
Yeah, he was just the Stanley Parable. I wonder how many people looked at this game and saw that, and they were like, why is Guy Fieri in the Stanley Parable? Is he in the game?
Oh my god.
Oh
Isn't
man,
the
it killed me.
Stanley Parable the one that had that achievement where it's like don't play the game for 10 years?
Oh, maybe I remember hearing about that
I remember
actually.
like
It had
it
some
started
timelines.
I remember a couple years ago like it like started to finally pop for some people.
For
And
people, yeah, for people who hadn't been playing for like ever.
right.
That's funny.
So, yeah,
Oh my
look forward
god.
to that. And Guy Fieri coming to Stanley Parable this week.
The Flavortown Parable.
Yes. All right, let's get sad hours for this week in gaming history. It's time to feel old. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe 5 years ago on the Switch. We have Mario Kart Wii 14 years ago, obviously on the
Jesus.
Wii. The original Super Smash Brothers 23 years ago. Panzer Dragoon Saga, another cult classic on the Sega Saturn 24 years ago. The Game Gear itself, the console, 31 years ago. And the original series of the Game & Watch Nintendo came out with before, obviously, the Nintendo, 42 years ago. So, I love this segment because it makes me feel so goddamn old.
You know what's weird for this segment?
What's
Now
that?
that I think about it, like it's funny for me and you to sit here, because I'm 34 or whatever,
Uh-huh.
And you've got me by a little bit, I believe. So like, it's funny we
A
can sit
hair.
here and be like, pretty much all gaming history we can like account for almost directly to an
Yeah.
extent. Like I was born in '89, so like obviously games existed when I was born, but like they weren't really a commodity that everybody kind of accepted as a cultural norm yet.
Oh,
And they
yeah.
probably weren't until like I was like in middle school, high school, and even then it was like sometimes you get picked on for playing games. But
Mhm.
now it's like it's the thing, right? Like it's a normal
It's
thing. Everybody has
everyone
game
has
time. You have
yeah,
man
yeah.
caves.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that the other day. Like I was one of the lucky kids that had a game system. That wasn't a norm back
right,
then.
yeah,
Now there's people that have multiple game systems in their house. Of course, I'm a bit of an outlier with just 5 Switches of my own, but
sure.
it's some it's not abnormal now for people to have one, two, three consoles in their house.
Yeah, but like even in my house, I've got two Switches, which I mean, long story short, we bought a Switch, and then Alicia won a Switch from a raffle at work,
Oh
and we
wow,
just kept it.
that's great.
So that new one became mine, and then the old
Nice.
one became the kids. Um, So, but yeah, we've got 2 Switches, a PS4, and a computer. I mean, I've got a 3DS kicking around. I think it's a red 2DS, like no, the one that doesn't fold or whatever, the old one. Um, but yeah, I think like most houses are like mine. They've got 2 or 3 game playing devices of some kind,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
it's just bizarre to think that like the new generation, like my kids are like 11 and 7, and they're growing up in a time where like games have been around for like decades. It's just the thing now,
Sure.
you know. And we were like, no, dude, you don't understand. Like, you had to go to special buildings where they had a collection of games, and they all cost a quarter to play over and over and over. Like, you don't get it, dude. You could just sit down and pop open the Switch and be like, I'm gonna jump on the arcade and go find a game for $5, or like I'm gonna just download this game, play it for free. It's like that's unheard of when we were a kid, dude.
Yeah,
It's
for
insane.
$20 you could hop on Amazon right now and buy like the Atari collection for the Switch,
Right.
and it's like every good Atari game, quote, obviously they don't age too well, but everything's
Sure.
there, and it's like that would cost a fortune back in the day.
Like,
And
dude,
games were
this
not cheap
year,
back in the day.
like this year, I'm gonna be revisiting like the Turtles arcade game probably with you and our mods when we
Oh
play
yeah,
that whenever it comes out.
oh yeah,
And like it's wild to think that back in the day, you had to like you had to like walk down to your local arcade with strangers everywhere, go into a building, find the machine in the corner, and like put a quarter on it and get in line behind the 4 other kids who were ready to play and be like, my turn after that kid. Like that was how. Now you just load it up on your Switch and play with your buddy from your house or whatever. Like it's
oh yeah,
insane. You had to like coordinate with your friends. Like we're all going to the arcade at 2 o'clock. Bring money for pizza. Like
right.
have quarters and shit. Like you run out of quarters and like, and then like sometimes like, you'd have that one kid that run out of quarters and he would just be like, I can't play anymore. And you're like, oh man, that sucks. Like maybe everyone gives him a quarter so he has some like man, it was a whole different ball game back then. It's insane to
Yep.
think about how much the culture shifted and how normalized gaming has become now.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, anyone with a cell phone can be a fucking gamer whenever they want,
Oh
and
yeah, dude.
it doesn't take much for them to play classic Game Boy Advance games, Nintendo games, and all that shit on a
Mm-hmm.
cell phone. You can make it happen.
Dude, like
Um,
my son was playing Tunic the other day, and he's like playing Tunic and doing stuff, and he's like, "Man, like, how do I figure this puzzle out?" And I looked at him, and he looked at me, and he's like, "You want to help me with this puzzle?" And I was like, "One, when I was your age, I didn't have anyone to help me because my dad didn't care about video games,
mhm,
and I couldn't go online, I couldn't Google stuff, I couldn't. We didn't even have like the capability. If I couldn't figure out a thing in a game, either I like came back to it later and I never figured it out, or I figured it out eventually, or like it was a rented game and I gave it to Blockbuster as like the one that got away because I never beat it or something.
right.
Like like I did not have the ability to just be like, I can't figure this out and like pick up my magic box device and be like, okay, that's how that puzzle works. And then just like do it or whatever. It's like it's unheard of. Like even my kid having a dad who plays video games to me sounds wild as a kid because my dad did not have any interest in anything that I did.
Oh, sure.
So it's insane to think about like what it would be like to grow up with like a father who would come home from work and look at me and be like, I also video game or something. It's like it's unheard of.
Oh, yeah. And I had um at least a mom who was pretty against games in general. But here's a great image of this is a perfect representation of the time. This is like the kids watching their mom try to beat a level for them. Absolutely love
Yeah.
it. But
Yeah.
everyone's like engrossed in what she's doing and shit, and she can tell she's like trying her fucking best too. Like, she's got it. She's got the eye for it. So she might have been like one of the cool moms back in the day that played games. It's probably like Tetris or something.
I was just
Everyone
gonna
was
say
playing
I'm
Tetris
almost
back in the day.
positive that's Tetris.
Yeah.
The little bit of purple.
Yep. Yep.
I'm gonna look it up. I almost feel like that has to be a Tetris card.
Let me see if I can zoom in on it. It's either that or Mario Brothers. I'm pretty confident.
It's like blue with a little bit of purple.
I think
That's
it's
yeah,
Super
that's
Mario World.
Tetris.
You think so?
Oh, you think so?
I think it's
I
Super
can't
Mario
tell.
World. We'll have to let's
Hmm.
compare and contrast off stream.
Yeah, yeah, because it very well could be that too. Yeah, because that one also has like that colors.
hmm
Mm. We're gonna sleuth that after stream.
All right. Well, let's wrap up the show for tonight. Social media stuff. I am Game Dude Retro on Twitter and Instagram. Find me on Twitter. I post a lot there. I don't post a whole lot on Instagram and TikTok, which of course I'm always trying to get into, but never seem to have find time for it. And of course, Retro Game Dude on Twitch as well. And then schedule wise, obviously tonight was the podcast. On Sundays we're going to be doing Lego Star Wars Tuesday and Wednesday, and I'm looking forward to it. And Jackbox, of course, on Saturdays. Come by, swing by, play with us, have a good time, join the Discord, and come enjoy watching movies. Discord's been popping. Discord's been popping lately, so I'm loving to see that. Loving to see it. Yeah, so I'm really happy with everything that's going on so far, and I do appreciate everyone for participating, happy, and coming out and playing. It all means a lot. So
I take credit for the 30 post thread of in the music channel where we went off on a tangent about like the Hex Girls and like all that garbage.
I love it.
Did you catch up on all that? It was kind of a trip.
It was a lot because I never saw the movie, so I was like, all right. Well.
Oh, so long story short, the Scooby-Doo movies, when we were like, I don't know when it would have been even, there was a couple Scooby-Doo movies that were like really well produced because they were supposed to be movie theater films. Scooby-Doo Zombie Island, Scooby-Doo Witch's Ghost. And they were going to make theater films out of them, but at the time, the like straight to DVD market, or I mean, straight to VHS market was like killing it. So they only made straight to VHS versions of it because it was cheap to produce and it was doing really well because Disney was doing all their sequels and those were selling. And so they went straight to VHS. They hired a band, I think it was called Sky Cloud, to make like rock songs for Scooby-Doo. It's really cool. And then the movie did really well, and then they made a follow-up movie that was unrelated, but like the next one they made, and it had a group of like 3 witches named the Hex Girls, and they were like rock girls, and they played guitar and drums and they sang and everything. And like for my generation, it was like a cultural awakening. Everybody on both sides of the aisle was attracted to these women, and they grew up as like, oh my god, this is like the perfect thing or whatever. And to this day, last year they got pop figures. 20 years later.
Wow.
And now this year they were talking about making a show. The Scooby-Doo people, Warner Brothers, whoever, was talking about making a show just about them because they keep making new Scooby-Doo shows, and every time they do, partway into that show, they put the Hex Girls back in it because everybody's like, oh, the Hex Girls are back. And they go watch it again because they sing the songs and they're in the show and everything. And so they were like, let's just make Hex Girls, I guess. And so they've been
talking
about
a more modernized take on like Josie and the Pussycats,
That's exactly what the Hex Girls was inspired by, was Josie and the Pussycats, but Earth, Wind, and Fire style, Wiccan, magic, witches, yada, yada, yada.
right.
But like, we were all in the Discord talking about how it was like, you talk to any person nowadays and you're like, oh, like you do the running jokes on like Saturday nights about like goth girlfriend or whatever. And it was like, it all goes back to like the Hex Girls, like inspiring everybody in America to be like, at 10 years old, to look at these girls and be like, oh my god, I love them.
Right.
And now 20 years later, everybody wants like a goth girl because of the Hex Girls from 1990 from a Scooby-Doo movie or whatever.
Yeah, I completely missed it, but still got in the same place.
But still got into like the same loop or whatever. But no, so the main singer, Jennifer Hale, she's been in like everything, dude. So back in the 90s, she was the lead singer of the Hex Girls in a Scooby-Doo movie, and everybody knew her name, knew who she was, at least in the movie. In the last 20 years, even up until last year, she was in Halo Infinite. She was Sarah Palmer, the Spartan, in Halo 4, 5, and Infinite. She was in God of War. She was in Mass Effect as the female Shepard. She was in Metroid Prime as Samus Aran. She's in a bajillion Cartoon Network cartoons, running from like Dexter's Lab to like Johnny Bravo to like all that shit back then, Powerpuff Girls. She's in a bunch of video games. She's in Dragon Age. She's in like, she's like, if you go look up her Wikipedia, she's in everything. She's been in like everything for the last 20 years. She was like Starfire. She was in a bunch of Marvel comics and DC comics. She was Zatanna. Like, it's bonkers, dude. She was like everything.
Like the female Nolan North. Dude's in the
that's exactly what I said. I was like, dude, she's in everything. Like, that's wild. And then so we just had a whole trip where like I was posting like, she's in this, she's in this, she's in this. Like, holy shit, she's in this. And we ran down a whole rabbit hole. It was a rabbit hole. That's what it was. Of like finding out what she was in. But it was like I started hitting like she was in God of War, she was in Dragon Age, she's Samus Aran, and I was doing like a what the fuck is happening? Like, yeah, she runs the gamut on like voice acting. Apparently, it's pretty wild.
It's wild.
But yeah, it's a fun trip. You look her up if you're having a good time.
Great.
Or just scroll through the Discord conversation because we probably mentioned everything that she did.
I'll throw it up in the Discord, the chat. Anyone who wants to join, feel free to top in there. It's a good time, and we always like to see new people in there participating and everything too. So we're going to wrap it up for now, but I do appreciate all the fans watching and tuning in this week. And we'll be back again next week with more content. Next week being this Tuesday. So thanks again for everyone for tuning in, and we will see you next time.